Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft, the part of the Let's Talk YouTube channel where I talk about all things H.P. Lovecraft. And today I'm doing another short story review for you in the form of The Unnamable, written 1923, first published in July of 1925 issue of Weird Tales. This one is said to be the first appearance of Randolph Carter, although he's never explicitly identified as Randolph Carter, but the character, the narrator, is a man named Carter, and he's sitting on a tomb in Arkham, Massachusetts, talking to his friend Joe Manton. They're having a sort of philosophical argument. Manton is a realist, whereas Carter is prone to the belief in the supernatural, things that he calls unnamable, and he writes about them in his stories. And this is very much a criticism of, or self-criticism of Lovecraft himself. If you look at a lot of his stories, he's constantly calling things being beyond description, unnamable, unknowable, undefinable. And that is actually a criticism about his work that persists to this day. The day wears on, the sun goes down, they're sitting on this tomb in this graveyard next to his strange, eerie house. And even Manton's susceptibility to the undefinable, the unnamable, the irrational sort of blossoms. Carter's telling him stories. He tells him about a legend native to that region about a half-human, half-devil, horned and hoofed creature born in a house in that area. And He tells him how this story dates back centuries, and yet there's still sightings of the creature and unexplainable phenomenon related to it. The beast itself is said to have died by being locked into the attic of a building, and but even then, the presence of the creature persisted in legend and in stories. Think about the Loch Ness Monster, the Bigfoot, UFOs, things like that are so ingrained in the collective consciousness that they take on a life of their own. But Carter, he claims that in his research and his investigation of the tale, he claims to have found the bones of the creature in the eaves of the house, and he claims to have found them and locked them, or rather buried them in a tomb. But turns out the house is the house overlooking the cemetery. The tomb is the tomb that they are sitting on. And just then they are attacked by something unnamable. They run off, but they are found the day later, and then they wake up in a hospital. They were found a mile from the cemetery. And to look at their wounds, you would see basically bruising from hoof marks and sort of gore marks, stabs from horns. And Manton, he's able to recall some of the attack, and he describes a sort of undescribable mist with many shapes within it, including a hoofed and horned creature. Sort of this, think of it as sort of a gelatinous blob, I would say. But it is the power of the story, the fear of this creature sort of manifested, its energies persisting in the world because of the fear of the thing, even after the body is gone. And that is very much what the story is about. It is about how legend has a life of its own, and how there are unexplainable things in our world beyond definition, but yet they very much affect us. And it's easy for rational types to dismiss them, but yet then occasionally even the rational person like Manton is faced with these realities, and then they're affected by them. You see this constantly. How many of those TV shows have you seen where someone claims to have been abducted by a UFO, or seen a UFO, or seen Bigfoot, or some other unexplainable phenomenon? And everybody says, I'm not I'm not prone to this type of belief. Oftentimes these sightings are by respected people, police officers and politicians and professionals, rational people who do not want to see these things. They're not necessarily prone to seeing these things. They're not prone to make believe. And in fact, they're so concerned that they will be seen differently, seen as being kooks, if they talk about it, that they often don't talk about these experiences for decades. So it's a really interesting thing that Lovecraft is playing with in this story. It's actually very relevant, I would say, to today when just the way with the internet we have so much sharing of stories and through TV and all these other avenues, that he was already thinking about the way we react to these type of situations. And it's also a great yarn, just the way that he spun it. It begins with a conversation, it leads into this story, but yet we find out they are actually living in this story. So H.P. Lovecraft's story is still going on here today. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on The Unnamable, written 1923, first published July 1925 in Weird Tales. Good little tale from H.P. Lovecraft, the latest review for me here on my channel. And before long, I will have reviewed every single one of them. So keep tuning in and see what I talk about next. Please subscribe, and I will see you again soon.